Well, Minneapolis is still reeling after a second fatal shooting at the hands of federal agents. Some Republicans have joined their Democrat colleagues in calling for a full and urgent investigation into what happened. For more on the investigation, we've reached Shira Scheindlin. She is a former U.S. District Court judge. So, Judge, welcome to the program. Thank you for making some time for us today.
My pleasure.
I'd like to start with these growing calls, in some cases even bipartisan calls for an impartial investigation into the fatal shooting of Alex Pretty. Between federal, state, and local law enforcement, who should take the lead on this? Who would traditionally take the lead on this, and who should going forward?
Right. So if we trusted the federal investigation, that would be the first step typically, because whenever there's a shooting by a federal officer, it has to be investigated. Even if the person we know did nothing wrong, all shootings where somebody's injured are investigated. But given how fast the first investigation was closed of Renee Good, I don't think anybody in Minnesota trusts the federal government to conduct a fair and thorough investigation. So the state and local authorities say they should be allowed to investigate alongside the feds, with the feds, working together. But so far, the feds have ruled them out. So when Renee Good was killed, they told the state and local, you can't have any evidence. You can't work with us. We're pushing you aside. And they started to do the same thing again now with Alex Pretty. They're saying the state and local should move aside and leave it to the feds. The state and local authorities are going to fight back. They've asked the public to send any video they have of both incidents. So they're trying to gather their own evidence because the feds are not cooperating with state and local authorities in these investigations. So they're going forward by the state, but they're hampered. They can only get what citizens have through their videos that they took at the time. And we'll see what that produces. We've already seen what that produces. Actually, those videos have shown a narrative that is quite contrary to what the federal authorities claimed happened.
Well, and I think a lot of our viewers by now have probably seen at least one, maybe even multiple of those videos, because there are several different videos showing several different angles of what happened. Talk to us about the role that those videos will play going forward. Well,
they're going to play an incredibly important role because they are real-time evidence of what happened in that event. And I've seen them also, and they can be slow. They can be sort of viewed in slow motion, step by step or screen by screen. And when you break it down slowly, you look at it screen by screen. I have to say, speaking both as a judge and just a common citizen, it's pretty clear that this man was never holding a gun, never pointing it at the authorities. He was holding a cell phone. Then the officers took him down, removed the gun from its holster, not from its hand, from its holster. And then it seems to me started shooting him. Now, if that's really the sequence of events, I'm sorry, but I call that an execution.
What do you make of some of the comments that we've heard from various members of the administration, including the Deputy White House Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller? He has referred to Pretty in social media posts as an assassin, as a domestic terrorist. How will that sort of language coming from the administration, how will that impact an investigation?
Well, it shouldn't impact it at all. Stephen Miller is completely out of bounds. Calling this man an assassin or a terrorist is ridiculous. This man is a nurse in an ICU emergency room. He was a protester. He was there. But you have a right to be a peaceful protester. He was peaceful. It is true that he owned a gun, but he was licensed to own it. And he's licensed in Minnesota to carry it openly. That's permitted in Minnesota. So he never had that weapon in his hand and never pointed it at anybody, any of the ICE officers. So that's just out of bounds. What Stephen Miller has to say should be ignored. And I don't think it'll play any role in the investigation.
And just finally here, Judge, you mentioned off the top that you don't think a lot of Americans would trust any sort of federal investigation at this point. Talk to us about this moment then for the country and what that means, that there could potentially be a lot of Americans that don't trust a federal investigation.
Well, that's right. I think after the shooting of Renee Good and the very quick investigation that was closed, I think many Americans who saw that video, and that must be in the millions, saw a car moving away from the officers, trying to get away, not to run down or run over an ICE agent. And so the narrative that they're putting out, the government, just seems inaccurate when you can see with your own eyes. So when you're being told, don't trust your own eyes, that's no good. We all do trust our own eyes. So I think many Americans have lost faith in the federal government now with respect to these ICE operations, which seem to be out of control and quite lawless. Remember, these are not trained law enforcement agents. They are not trained in de-escalation. They are not trained on citizen protests. And they're in the streets reacting. And of course, as young men reacting for the first time, they make mistakes. They're scared. They think they're being attacked. They act. So it's a real problem. One of the confusions that's going on now is whether they have immunity or not. And I must tell you, they do not have what's called absolute immunity. They have qualified immunity. And that's going to be a problem for any investigation or any charges.
Judge, thank you for this. We really do appreciate your time and your thoughts on this today.
My pleasure.
Judge Shira Scheindlin is a former U.S. District Court judge. Thank you.